Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Computer Science and IT Industry Advisory Meeting for Career Technical Education. My name is Christian Naranjo with the College and Career Readiness Bureau. We know your time is extremely valuable, so thank you so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Like I said, if you can just rename your picture just to include your first and last name and your place of work, that'd be great. During this time, if you have any questions or comments, we do ask that you place them into the chat, and our team will do our best to answer it in the chat. And if it requires more of a response verbally, we can wait until after the presentation and the breakout rooms are concluded to address that. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce the director of the College and Career Readiness Bureau, Dr. Elaine Perea. Oh, looks like you're muted, Elaine.
Okay. I am muted?
We can hear you now.
Oh, good. Sorry, my computer has just decided to go a little haywire at the last minute. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate Christian getting us started. I see there are still a lot of people coming into the waiting room, so sure we're going to have people joining us. My name is Elaine Perea. I'm the director of the College and Career Readiness Bureau, and glad to have you here today for an input session specifically designed for employers and industry partners who are working in computer science and information technology. We need your voice, we want your voice, and we're really, really glad to have you here today. I had thought about how we might set this stage to really think about what matters and why computer science is such an important topic for us. And Alex actually put together a bunch of history for me, and it was a great lesson for me. And so I thought that it might be useful for some of you guys as well to just have a little bit of the history of computing in our state, because New Mexico's really had a long and vibrant history of computing, going back almost 70 years. In 1949, our computing kind of started with the Sandia Labs establishing here. And that really kind of set the groundwork for so much of the industry. And that was started as part of the Manhattan Project. And computers and information technology, as you can imagine, in 1949, really, really early in the whole of computing. And so our state really goes back quite a long way. And then in 1965, New Mexico Tech established one of the first computer science departments in the United States. So the role of education in computer science and New Mexico really tightly tied together. And then I love this. I wish I could show you the picture. Maybe Christian, I can just show this one picture. I won't take a lot of time, but I'm so tickled with this picture. There.
I'll stop sharing so you can.
Yeah. Let's see if we can make this one show. 1974. Y'all see that picture? That's the first PC right here in New Mexico. And then moving on, Microsoft in 1979 actually founded here in New Mexico. And then they left because they had difficulty recruiting. And that really then is the heart of why we're here today, because we have an amazing history of computer science, and we have long-standing educational partners in teaching computer science, not only to New Mexicans, but across the country. But we have had a problem with recruiting and retaining top computer scientists as for the whole of it. And so what we're here today to ask your help in is, what can we do as educators to really improve this, turn it around, make it better, and make sure that the educational system, K-12 especially, but also post-secondary, but that the pipeline is meeting the needs of employment by preparing students appropriately. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'd like to start with introducing my team. There is a fairly large team of people that works in our bureau, College and Career Readiness. We have two managers, Mark Dusky and Alex Lutz, who work for me. And then Christian Naranjo, who you may have interacted with, is our communications coordinator. So super important, and you'll see emails from him that are our messaging out. And then the rest of the people that are on this list are all what we call CTE coaches. They're people who are tasked with making sure that career technical education is high quality and relevant and leads to high demand, high wage jobs. And so let me tell you a little bit more about our bureau, and then I'll hand the presentation over. So College and Career Readiness does, we work in, we say and, college and career. We see our work in three big buckets. We do traditional college preparedness, including advanced placement classes. We do, within the college world, we do some acceleration programs. Most important one for this conversation is dual credit. That's where students who are high school students also get credit for a college class, simultaneous credit in both systems. The second sort of bucket of work that we do is work-based learning, internships, apprenticeships, hands-on experiences, school-based enterprises. One of those that's really relevant for this conversation is called Gen Yes, and that's where our students can be help desk technicians at the school. So that's a kind of a school-based enterprise, work-based learning model. And then the third big category is career technical education. And the concept of career technical education is that students take a series of technical classes, and through that series, they develop a more in-depth understanding of some aspect of a particular career. So work-based learning, hands-on learning, and ideally working towards certificates and credentials as an outcome that can happen even in high school. Our bureau oversees funds that are used for professional development. And Paige Prescott is on the call today, one of our important partners from the Computer Science Teaching Alliance. And so we work with her to make sure that our high school instructors are skilled up as they are teaching computer science. And then broadly, we work really hard to try to be a bridge that pulls industry partners together with high schools and college partners. So with that really broad overview, I'd like to introduce Jaime Cherry. She's going to be doing the presentation today. She's one of our CTE coaches. She's our computer science specialist. She's been working in our bureau for about 4 years and was a teacher before that, a middle school teacher. So kudos to her, because most of us probably couldn't survive a week with the Jaime has helped develop the new computer science strategic plan for the state. Super important development in the past year, and she's going to be telling you a little bit more about that. She helps facilitate all sorts of computer science and information technology, especially in the high school space. And then she partners with somebody in the lower grades for computer science integrated into the core curriculum in younger kids. So with that, pleased to have you here. Thank you for your time. And Jaime, go ahead.
Thank you, Elaine. Okay, well, I'm just going to kind of give you Elaine mentioned a lot of the things that we're going to be covering. So I'm just going to be sharing some information with you from our end at PED. And then one of the biggest important parts of this meeting is the breakout sessions, where we really want to hear what you have to say. And so we'll be doing that toward the end, and then we'll have an opportunity to report out and have a little bit more of a discussion on those things. And so again, as Elaine mentioned, the objective here is for us to gain knowledge as to how to move forward to better prepare our students for computer science and IT workforce. We can't do this work without industry, and we know that your needs are heavy in this area. So we just want to bring this conversation together. And just so, we know that computer science and information technology are crucial to every student's ability to be successful in their education and their career pathway. It overlaps into every career cluster. The occupational demands of these fields are increasing. The demand is, requiring a heavier skill set. And so we want to be able to move students to navigate more easily through this, ever-changing landscape. And we do recognize too that computer science and information technology are very different, in their own right, but there's also a great deal of overlap. And so we know, we recognize those things. So as Dr. Perea mentioned, in the fall of 2019, a computer science task force was made up of, multiple people from across the state. We had industry, we had students, we had parents, educators, legislators, anybody that had a shared vision for computer science education in New Mexico came together and collaborated for quite a while. And then in 2021, recommendations were submitted to NMPED, which led to the completion of the computer science strategic plan. And so Christian will be dropping that link in the chat if you wanted to look a little bit more in depth at what that plan includes. But some highlights, so this is a 5-year plan, and certainly some of these things are currently taking place. Computer science can satisfy a core graduation math requirement, and that, that's current now. Ideally, we would love all high schools to offer at least one computer science course. An annual review continues on with courses that may be offered statewide. So, we do this in partnership with the Math and Science Bureau here at NMPED, with the Computer Science Alliance, with educators, cyber.org. I mean, we just have a multiple amount of resources to draw on for that. The Math and Science Bureau offers, and will continue to offer teacher professional learning in these areas. And then ideally half of the districts will have some type of K through 12 computer science implementation plan in place, which may include community partnerships, which is where you all come in for that. They really need that voice to help them with their advisory boards and how to move forward with their, implementing their computer science and their IT. And then, ideally every single high school student will have, or every single high school will have students that are concentrating in a CS or IT program of study. Ultimately, that's what we want to see, because that's going to bolster the workforce in this area. And so, as mentioned earlier, career technical education sets students on a pathway that spans their secondary and their post-secondary career, whether it be a 2-year or a 4-year option that they choose. It's just going to give them the opportunity to have their academic learning reinforced with related work-based experience. Unique to CTE pathways are that potential for opportunities for students to earn credit and industry recognized certifications that are specific to what they want to do. And so, it's just a really good, it sets them up for a great opportunity. There are student organizations such as TSA, Technology Student Organization, that serve as a way for students to compete and to sort of show their skill set, collaborate, and embedded throughout all career technical education pathways is the emphasis on workplace readiness, how to interview, how to address, supervisors, and how to work as a team. And so that's what is unique to it. And so it really lends itself to having a student be very successful. And so some funding supports that we oversee in our bureau. So we have 2 buckets of money, federal and state. So Perkins is our federal CTE grant, and the Next Gen grant is a state grant. Both of these are entitlement grants. And so the priorities are predetermined by economic needs. And so for the federal money, 100% of the funds must align to an economic priority in their region. And then for state, half of it must align, but they can use the other 50% to support another program of study that may not be a priority. So the Next Gen grant is a 7-year pilot, and I believe next year in 22-23, we will be in the 4th year of that. And so when we talk about economic regions or identified priorities, the state is broken up into 10 career technical education regions, or 10 CTE regions. And so as of last year and currently, the only 3 regions that have not identified CS or IT as an economic priority are region C, G, and K. So those 3 regions do not currently have the ability to use their federal funding to support a CS or IT initiative, but they can use 50% of state funding if they so choose to do so to support something in that area. So every other region has identified that. And so this is, this is really important because we know that CS and IT, you all know that it transcends across all career clusters. So it's great that it's recognized everywhere as a priority, but we still have a lot of room to grow here. So just looking at some information from the New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions. So this is what you're looking at as an estimated and projected employment. The darker is the actual employment and the lighter green is projected. And so it looks, it doesn't have everything. So there were about 15,000 jobs that were not specified. It was just general. So I took those out, but these are, what the needs are showing right now in New Mexico. And, of course, I know that you know this. So this is just kind of a snapshot in it. It's ever changing and growing. And, we know that it's going to continue that way. And so we're really trying to make sure that our the talent pool is not as shallow, so we can make sure that your needs are being met too. We don't want our kids to leave. We want them to stay. We want them to have opportunity, but we realize we need to do the work in preparing them for that. And so when upon registration, you were asked to identify your needs, like what were some of your biggest skill needs right now. And so the 3 that I have bolded and in larger font were the ones that I saw repeatedly throughout the survey. cyber and software security is growing exponentially, those needs, cloud computing, network administrators. So this is kind of what you told us. And in addition, a lot of you mentioned just readiness, willingness to work, commitment. And so career technical education programs, they do address that. They do address that readiness piece. And so that's where students are going to get that experience. So for 2021, the 21-22 school year, the total grant funding IT and NCS take on about 7% of the total funding. And so about $700,000 of that goes to these programs, and this is spread out over 17 schools. And so that's just kind of a snapshot of where we're at for this year. We're getting ready to open up the application for the 22-23 school year for CTE funding. And so, obviously I'm hoping that that continues to grow as the needs grow. So we'll see where that falls. And then as far as our courses that we offer in the state, so right now in our state, there are about 44 courses available. And these courses are in computer science and IT. And so they cover everything from the very basic introductory concepts all the way to more highly complex and detailed topics. And so right now for 21-22, we have about 101,000 high school students, and our enrollment in the span of these courses is about 4,047 students. And so, so this kind of speaks to, we want this to grow. We want that little slice of pie to just keep on growing, because we know that this is not addressing what your needs are. This isn't enough to fill what I shared earlier with the growth and the projected needs for jobs. And so, again, this is why we're here. And so our programs of study these are our CTE programs of study. And so what these are approved pathways that a student can take on as part of their high school experience. And so these are what we have right now available. And so the pathway is designed to have some type of introductory course. And as the student moves on, they have the opportunity to fulfill a capstone requirement in multiple ways, whether it be a dual credit, it can be an on-the-job training or work-based learning, or some type of advanced placement course. And so you'll notice that, here the career cluster information technology, we do include computer science in that. The career clusters are designed, those were set. There's 16 of them. Computer science falls in this, but this is what we have. These are always, we review these annually. We continually work with partners. And so again, your feedback is always welcome in this, because this is where our students are going to really be able to get what they need to carry on into their post-secondary, or maybe they're going directly into work. So, there are opportunities there, but we want to make sure that they're prepared. And then looking at the state for 21-22, so everywhere where you see the yellow, we have students enrolled in at least one of the courses that we talked about, of the 44 courses. So IT, computer science, it's across the board. And the orange areas that you see are where students or where a program of study is funded. The yellow dots, or the red dots, are where a post-secondary is using their federal funds to support a computer science or IT program. So, in looking at this, ideally, we'd have it all orange and yellow, and, it would be great. And we're getting there. I think this would have looked a lot different 3 years ago, and it did look a lot different. So we're moving that way. And what's promising is that if you look at the yellow, the lighter shade that's where the potential lies, because we know that in those districts, you have a supportive administration, you have a teacher of record or more than one that is able to carry out these courses and offer students support in these programs. And so this is where industry can really come alongside a district, as maybe it's on their advisory board, maybe it's, you know, as a guest speaker, or in some capacity come alongside a teacher to sort of help them. So there's a lot of growth here, but I see a lot of promise in this as well. And when we look at career technical education, there's some core indicators that that we look at to consider for like high quality CTE. And so the three that are here are dual credit. As Dr. Perea mentioned, this is where a student can simultaneously earn a high school credit and college credit. Students that take dual credit tend to do really well. Their graduation rates are higher. And so it's a really good way to get students into that pipeline. And so right now we have 5 of the students enrolled in an IT or CS course. 511 of those are enrolled in a dual credit CS IT in some capacity. And then work-based learning, that on-the-job training, that, you know, obviously is really important because students are going to earn some skills in that and get some familiarity with the career that they're moving to. And so right now we have 16 enrollments, and, you know, hopefully we'll see growth there. And then 2, we have the industry recognized certifications. And so this is where, while in high school, we can have students actually earning something that is recognized by industry. And so right now, or at the end of 2021, we had 5 Python certifications earned. So again, this is where, you know, your voice comes in. And so I would like to, right now, if you could go to the top of your view of your Zoom screen and the view drop down, if you could annotate and stamp maybe which one of these do you value in an applicant the most? As somebody that hires, which one of these would you value the most? And so if you wouldn't mind, and I think Christian put some notes in the chat on how to do that, what would be something you would value the most? So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. So right now I see kind of everything, a little bit of everything. Okay, I'll give another like 30 seconds if you wouldn't mind. Just kind of telling us which one of these would be valued the most. This is great. Thank you all so much for that. So again, you know, these are things that we're working on, and I'm going to talk a little bit about certifications in just a bit. But, you know, again, all of these things are things that we want to make sure that we're able to offer our students across the state so that they can be prepared for you when they go and apply for all of these openings that you have. So I'm going to go ahead and Christian, can you, let's see if you can erase those. Thank you. Okay. So here is a list of our available certifications in the state that can be attained by students. And so this is reviewed annually. This can be revised. So I'm going to give it over to Christian. He's going to kind of give you a poll so that we can get some feedback on this specific piece. So Christian, go ahead.
All right, so you should see a poll pop up on your screen here. And so just asking you which of these certifications would be valued in an applicant. And so as you can see, everything that's listed in the presentation slide is listed as an option here. So if you're able to vote, that'd be great. You can choose more than one. And then if you do select other, we do ask that you type in what that certification is into the chat so that we can mark down what that is as well. So I'll give everyone about 20 more seconds here to kind of get their answers in before I start sharing what the results are. A few more seconds here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share the results with everyone so that they can see what everyone is saying essentially. And so hopefully you can see that all right. But as you can see, basically almost all of these certifications were selected in some fashion. If you did select other, like I said, we'll go into the chat and make sure we take note of what it was said there. So thank you for helping us with the chat or helping us with this poll. Jamie?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So yes, as Christian said, we're recording this meeting. We're recording everything that the polls and all the discussions. And so, this is valuable for us to know as to how to move forward with modifying this if we need to. Okay, so I am actually going to turn this back over to Christian. Now we're to the piece in the presentation where we're going to be doing our breakout session. So Christian, I'm going to let you explain this.
Sure. All right, everyone. So yeah, this is the section of the meeting we're really excited about because that's why we wanted to meet with you. Is essentially we want to hear from you and get your input about what you need. And so we're going to break it into 4 different breakout rooms in just a moment here. And so what's going to happen is you're going to enter that breakout room that's automatically assigned to you. Each room is going to have one person from our team facilitating the discussion and help taking notes of what's being said. And we're going to be answering 2 questions together. And it's the questions you see right here. The first one is, what is one thing that you would consider an essential piece of every computer science and IT program? And what is one thing your company can do to support programs in computer science or IT? So as we go into our breakout rooms, your facilitator will have a Padlet that essentially will help gather all of the ideas that are being said regarding these 2 questions, and a link will be shared in each breakout room so you can access that. And so we're going to give you about 25 minutes. So right now it's 1:34. So we're going to give you until about 2 o'clock on the dot here to get into your breakout rooms and then discuss these 2 items, get to know each other a little bit. There is just one thing I am asking you all groups to do if possible, and that's to make sure at least one person can share out what is said in each group. And so we're asking this person not be the facilitator, but someone rather from industry that can volunteer to do this for each group, just to simply share what was being discussed, the big ideas. That'd be extremely helpful as we come back to the main room here and share out what was said. So in just a moment here, you should see a notification pop up on your screen asking you to a breakout room, and then you can just click OK, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, Jamie, I believe everyone is back now whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you all so much. As I was popping in and out, just some great conversations and just some great feedback that you are all providing. You have no idea how valuable this is to us. So thank you for that. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go in order of who had a breakout session and or facilitators, and then hopefully you've identified somebody to report out. So Barb, I'm going to start with you if you want to go ahead and.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Really good conversation in breakout room 1, and Ms. Ann Gentile has generously volunteered to report out for us. Thanks, Ann.
Okay. Yeah, our answers to question 1 were very wide ranging, from understanding the infrastructure, understanding aspects about databases, platform and edge computing, et cetera, et cetera. I think the two themes to take away from that are, one that was brought up was understanding really that it isn't just one element of a computing system. Everything is, how everything interacts with everything else, how they're all integrated. That sort of concept, both in the education and understanding that, will make people more valuable when they come to actually do a job where that sort of integration is important. And I think another theme that came out there was that there really are a variety of needs here, from some of the most just basic replacing components, hardware repair, up through research. So just to say one essential piece for that would be very hard, but an opportunity to communicate to people that you don't need a PhD researcher to have a CS career, right? There's a lot of stuff that people who are interested in can do. So that was our space of number one. And then our space of number two, there were various things about pipelines. Oracle has a program that provides educational curriculum and opportunities. A thing came up about really being able to communicate to students what careers are like, because the way you interact in the classroom with homework sitting in front of a terminal is very different than how CS careers are very engaging across vendors and institutions. They're very social, they're very innovative, and we need to communicate that. What I think is perhaps a theme really across all three of these is there's a lot of ideas and a lot of things that we want to do, but they require continuing engagement with the programs and the students. So if you can provide us a way to have continuous entree, because otherwise we don't know that these things are going on, or it's a classroom thing that we don't see how to fit in. So if you could build continuing communication with us, I think there's a lot that we can do. And I guess, did I miss anything from our group?
No, I think that was captured perfectly. Does anybody from our group one want to say anything else? I like the idea of continuing the pipeline of communication from industry through the classrooms to post-secondary. And then, they've got some work to do.
Great. Okay, thanks. Thank you, group one. So breakout room 2, Breezy's group.
Hi, so our breakout room was really awesome. We got a lot of feedback and information from everybody in there. Lori Lybrook from NMT is going to present our information.
So most of our discussion was about the essential things that someone for CS or IT would need coming out of high school. And some of the really critical ones that were mentioned were that one of the things that was specifically said is not only are they seeing they need this, but their customers say they need this, are cybersecurity, computational thinking, and design thinking. But we also spent quite a bit of time talking about soft skills and how critical soft skills from communication in general and, asking questions and being self-motivated to go out and find something productive to do. Don't just sit there on your phone, those kinds of things. How critical those are in the workplace and for students to be ready for that. Discussions of basics of data handling and teamwork and how do you work in a team comes back to something that the first group said about it's very different than sitting in a classroom and doing homework. There's a lot more team interaction. And so we spent quite a bit of time talking about the different needs and how we can align what we already do and making some contributions to support this, with summer internships being one of them, as well as contributions that are about helping with reviewing curriculum through outreach to K-12, those sorts of things. So that's sort of, I think I captured most of what we talked about very briefly. So if anyone else has something to add, please do.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. we will move on to room 3. Melissa.
Our group had very similar conversations to the first two. We talked a lot about the importance of kind of social emotional awareness, in addition to problem solving and critical thinking skills, and then spent a lot of time kind of at the end of our meeting talking about internships and on-the-job training and what partnerships would look like and how that applies to high school students. So Preston from our group has agreed to share.
Yeah, so specifically, I really liked some of the discussions about what that would look like what kinds of skills, you know, in high school and, you know, secondary education would be useful. And I really like what one of our members said about humanities and empathy and human relations. And we also discussed the critical thinking skill set, just like some of the other groups have already mentioned. Coursework that inspires that type of problem solving. I mean, that's really the foundation of what we do in IT, right? We're doing user stories. We're asking people, what is it that you do? And then we're providing a solution that's based on the technology and the tools we have to solve the problem. So really, that foundational type of thinking is necessary in any type of CS or IT program, really. At these levels. We would also seem to agree that some sort of introduction to scripting is necessary these days. I mean, obviously, we're moving, and I think, was it Doug that mentioned the movement in IT over the next 5 years to less and less humans in it, right? We're doing AI, we're doing automation, we're doing all these things. And so human beings are going to be more auditing than they are actually doing actual coding. So we're looking at low code and no code solutioning. Even the Microsoft Power platforms do a lot of that inherently. I don't know if you guys have used those yet, but I think that would be a huge introduction at even the high school level to a Microsoft Power Platform, Power BI, Power Automate, those types of things. They're drag and drop. They're really cool and really easy to use. And for the most part, free. That's what's always good about those kinds of things. We also talked about access to industry at the K through 12 level. And, you know, just what was it that somebody said in our group discussion? You won't do what you can't see or something like that, right? So like showing students what is even possible. I remember when I was a kid in school, I didn't even know some of the things that I've done in my career were even possible. So, I mean, just the wonder and the amazement at what we can do with technology. They got to be able to see some of that, right? So we also talked about some of the things that we can do. And as you mentioned, internship programs, things like that. Our hospital here in Santa Fe, we are highly motivated to develop some sort of internship program. We would welcome anything from you guys from the state here that could initiate that. We would love to do that.
Great, thank you. Thanks. And then we're moving on to Paige, breakout room 4.
In breakout room 4, we had a robust conversation that had a lot of technical components to it, you know, for the specific to the needs of the industries represented. And I am going to pass it on to Ron to give us a summary. Thanks.
Hi, we had a pretty good conversation when we were going through the first item about critical technologies. We really had a broad range of technologies, you know, security, networking, you know, just kind of everything you could think of. But the things that really stood out in our conversations were about developing the depth of skill. You know, one of the industry representatives talked about how some of the newer graduates or newer employees, they understand the very basics and they can kind of follow a pretty straightforward set of instructions, but they don't really understand why they're doing what they're doing. So whenever possible, trying to go deeper and get more depth behind the principles, understanding the algorithms behind a script, the logic of how, packets flow across the network. It's the deeper the knowledge, the more useful the students will be, because a lot of the students coming in are requiring a lot of extra training to get up to an independent level. We also had a good conversation about keeping the content as relevant as possible, especially for younger students. We talked about games, like Minecraft and others, where they could see, kind of an instant gratification where, they make a change and it affects the game and they see an immediate outcome. So, especially at the, high school, possibly junior high level, these might be ways to introduce some more abstract concepts that are kind of difficult to get or even understand the relevance. Once they get into college, they're able to handle more abstract concepts. But along the way, students need to understand that how this relates to the bigger picture. How something simple they're doing in Minecraft or some other type of simulation relates to how a big company might be implementing a similar technology. And then from ability to support New Mexico's initiatives, there a lot of businesses are talking about internships, mentorships, guest speaking. I come from AWS. We actually have training content that schools are able to download and consume in their classroom environments to supplement their training. So that's also available for you guys.
Great. Is that it? Does anybody else want to add anything to this? Okay, well, we are about out of time. So again, your feedback is so important and so appreciated. So our next steps are to, summarize these conversations that took place today. And, again, we're using this as our guide as we move forward in this work, and we'll take this information and also pass this on to to our partners in our regional meetings that we'll be having coming up with our applications opening for our CTE grants, but beyond that as well. And so this is so important. And then also, if you are willing to continue to contribute in strengthening these programs, there's a survey that Christian is going to go ahead and drop into the chat, and you'll just be asked to put your contact information again, and we will definitely be using that to contact you further for further discussions. For we hope that this is definitely, I don't think the last of these that we'll have. Again, thank you so much. Does anybody else have anything to add? We are right. I think, well, I guess we have a little bit of time, but that's okay. We know that your time was valuable today. So I just want to thank you finally for being here today and for taking time out of your busy schedule. So thank you so much. And Christian, I'll go ahead and let you close us out if you want.
Sure. I just want to make sure, Dr. Perea, did you have any final comments before we ended today?
I just wanted to comment that in the chat box, there's been a conversation going on about TSA, and we didn't get a chance to really talk about what TSA is. But for everybody on here, I think it's really important to know, as the state educational agency, we mostly interface with educators, with adults. And TSA is sort of our partner organization, one of our partner organizations. And TSA is a student organization. It's a student-run organization that is focused on technology. And they have annual competition at the state level. And then students who do well can advance to the national level. And it is a great place for business to get involved if you really want to interact with students, because you can do anything from serving as a judge, which is kind of a one-time commitment, to being a classroom mentor to help those projects evolve and develop so that students are more competitive. And often industry partners really are what helps students do so well that they advance to nationals. Sometimes especially students who compete at the national level, get job opportunities as an outcome of being involved in TSA. So those of you who were expressing some interest about like, how can I get more involved with students? Clara just put her website, nmtsa.com, and Jaime, anyone on the team CCRB can follow up and link you in if you want to be involved directly with students. We don't have a lot of student interaction ourselves. We mostly interact with educators, but we have the avenues to get you into classrooms if that's what you want. And the other thing I just want to say really briefly is I heard a lot of conversation about internships. I pinged some of my coaches and said, hey, were you paying attention to that? Internships is an amazing and underutilized opportunity in our state. And I really appreciate those of you who gave voice to how important that is. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you, and a tremendous applause to Jaime for putting this together. And for all of you who showed up and who recruited friends to come, really, really appreciate your advocacy for your career. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perea. And just one quick note before everyone jumps off, we will be sending out a summary along with the presentation slides and a recording of today's meeting, probably sometime next week to everyone that is on this call. And so you can look forward to that. So with that being said, thank you so much to everyone. And I just hope you have a great rest of the day. And we thank you for your input.